is too much weight given to saying things the rest of the public don't want to hear, and not enough weight given to things that will win us votes? Aidan Powelsland.
Absolutely.
Right, good. You have up to a minute. You have up to a minute. That's a fair answer. Bill Etheridge. You have up to a minute.
Yes, there is far too much weight given to saying things that we want to hear. We are a political party. There's no getting away from the fact that a political party can't change anything unless it actually reaches out to the electorate and wins elections. Now, those of you who were involved in 2014, we won that election, the first small party to win a national election. And we didn't do it by just talking about what we cared about and being self-indulgent. We reached out to the British public. We spoke about the things they cared about, which was more control back in this country's sovereignty. Communism, not motorbikes, but we spoke about all sorts of things. The point is, we have to reach out to the electorate by simply talking about what excites us and then putting it out there, not knowing whether or not the electorate are interested or not, would be unprofessional and shoddy. We have to play this game to win because the British public need us to.
Thank you, Bill. Anyone else? You don't need to do it. There's plenty of questions coming. Great. Next one. How much will you raise from donors per year, and how? How much will you raise from donors per year, and how? David Coburn.
Well, I've done a lot of this stuff. I managed to fund the entire Scottish campaign. We never get any money from the south, so we did it up there by ourselves. We did a mixture of donors and also people putting in money, ordinary members putting in money. And but the thing is, we need to go out there and we need to give people something for money. The trouble with the patrons is it doesn't give anything for money. We've got to give something back, otherwise people won't want to come along. It has to be revitalised, has to be taken in hand, and it must be treated as one of the most important things we do. Because I don't want 1 or 2 millionaires paying in money, because that means they can pull too many strings. I want to see a broader base for our money, and that is important. As for how much, as much as I can. I managed to pay for the Scottish election broadcast, our own manifesto, and our own, to subsidise many of our own people. And I will continue to do the same.
Peter Whipple.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, the question of money is probably one of the most important ones. Where I disagree with what David said, although of course I agree with a lot of it, is that we do need these large, substantial amounts of money from individuals. We cannot get away from this fact. What you do not have is therefore strings attached. You don't have someone saying, I'll give you this money so long as I can become chairman. That is just not going to happen. We've got 2 very, very good and loyal funders at the moment who are basically keeping us afloat. What I would say to you is that I have raised money all my life. I've been a self-starter all my life. I've got a very successful think tank, which means that that money has to be basically raised from people who just believe in what you want to do. They're not going to get anything back for it. So consequently, I would say that puts me in a very good position to get more relationships with more money, not just here, but I would say going to America too, to other countries. Let's get more collegiate about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Henry Bolton.
Some years ago, for 4 years, I was head of global border programs for an organisation called the Organisation for Security and Cooperation in Europe, 56 countries, governmental organisation. I ran the whole stretch of programs from Canada through to the other side of the Russian Federation, Central Asia, the Balkans, Eastern Europe. That budget was $36 million. I raised every cent of that $36 million from those governments. And I did it by setting out a clear set of objectives, methodology, and justifying why that money was required. Problem with donors at the moment and the patrons is that they're simply asked to sign checks because the bank accounts run empty. There needs to be a proper financial plan, and that financial plan needs to resource a correct and credible set of objectives for the party. I'm going to agree with what Peter just said. Donors who expect to buy influence in the party are not what we want. What we want is donors who want to support what we are trying to achieve.
Thank you, Henry. Jane.
Right. Well, to start with, if you want donors, you've got to have some credibility, and the same thing that attracts voters attracts donors. We have to get the messaging right. We have to become a credible political force again. But talking in practical terms, what can we do in practical terms? Yes, we've got to go out there and we've got to source potential donors. Nigel was very good at that, whining and dining them and getting them on board and becoming part of the team. But practical terms, fundraising, we have to look at appointing a fundraiser. Somebody that actually knows physically how to do this. Somebody that's maybe worked in the third sector that knows how to get that money in. We have to professionalise that side of the party. Also the Patrons Club, which everybody's touched on. The Patrons Club has to be more accessible. We have to work on the membership. It has to be reformed the same way as other parts of the party. And the way you could actually do that is opening it up to different levels of membership, to
Thank you, Jane.
Military.
Thank you, Jane. We are opening it up to
Military
David Curtin now.
Right. Thank you very much. Fundraising is so important. Aaron Banks, who's one of the largest donors to the party, is backing me, so that's a pretty good start. In terms of membership, at every level, there is been a breakdown in communication with members. And often people join up, pay £30 or £1,000 if you're a patron, and the only thing they hear in many cases is when you come up to a year, can you give us another £30 or can you give us another £1,000? And people need to be appreciated. That's no way to treat members, it's no way to treat patrons. What we need is someone who is full-time, working with members, working with patrons, and also putting in a middle section. We used to have something called the Gadfly Club, where people would pay about £100 to £200. You wouldn't get as much as a patron, but you get something. All these levels we need to make sure that they work properly. What I would like to do, if we get enough members, and I'd like to win back 200 patrons and 20,000 members within the first year, is to have 20% of branches, being 20% of income from branches to be able to be kept by branches, so that you would have a rolling income which would increase recruitment and retention
Thank you,
on
David.
the local level.
Thank you, David. You don't have to, just because Marion and say making this clear, you don't have to. It must be something which you really want to say, and you might want to spend your penny later. Not Thank you, Marion.
Well, it might be a little controversial, a couple of things I'm going to say. Alan Bound is my proposer, and yes, he is one of our two main donors. He only proposed me because he has trust in me and he's seen me. I wouldn't actually have mentioned Aaron Banks if I'd been David, because all Aaron Banks wants to do is take over UKIP. I think he's just waiting on the periphery, to be honest. And also, the main thing we need to is get more members. We need more members to bring in more money. We need a proper strategy of fundraising as well, and a professional individual to do it. And also it would be useful if we did have the money coming through at the moment from our MEPs and our assembly members, etc. Which would make a lot of difference, as we are down at the moment and we've got skeleton staff. We've had to really cut the staff down to the bone. So those are ways that I would see we could increase funds and move on again, is because we've got more members and have a strategy again of raising funds.
Thank you so much, Marion. Now, I think it was Ben Walker who put his hand up first.
Yes, please. Right, very, very quickly. It's all noise. This is all noise. The truth is, who in their right mind, be it a member, be it a patron, be it a donor, is going to give money to this party when we have no vision, we have no strategy? Nobody. And that's what we've got to fix first. Once we fix that, then we can go out and we can entice these people in. And we need to be engaging with the membership. We need more members on board. We need more patrons. We've lost 200. Why have we got into a position where we've lost 200? Because the party is so badly managed. Now, I will agree with Jane on this point. She's absolutely right. What we need is a professional fundraiser. And that, for me, would be one of the first things that we do after we implement a vision. But let's be serious now. So let's park donors, right? The truth is, we are in a dire state. UKIP, financially, we are up against the wall. And the truth is, we have MEPs and we have AMs who are not, paying into the party when they committed to do so. And lots of those members are quite close to home this evening, so please ask questions. But the truth is, if we can't get that buy-in, we haven't got a hell's hope of trying to get buy-in from anybody else.
And you don't have a hell's hope of continuing then? Thank you, sat down just in time. Aidan Poundsland.
So the question was, how much money will we personally raise? No plan survives contact with the enemy. When I grew a medium-sized company of 500 people to 2,000, I didn't do everything myself. Some sense has been talked about delegation. But in our worst quarter for raising money, we raised £2,500, I'm informed, at the same time that Labour was raising 2 million and the Conservatives were raising 3. And the reason for that is that Labour represents the interest of powerful forces in society that are willing to give money, in particular the unions, and similarly the Conservatives represent people who want to create wealth, if I might kindly characterise them that way. I agree with Ben, if we have a platform, a manifesto and a vision that will be attractive to people with money, we will in fact attract it. Now Anne-Marie will say that we shouldn't be bound.
But you won't be saying it. Now, let's move on now to another. Anne-Marie. Sorry. Anne-Marie.
Of course we need a professional fundraiser. This is obvious. This should happen on day one. Full-time professional fundraiser who knows what they're doing. I agree with Peter. We do need donors. This is the reality of it, sadly. But we don't need the same donors. There are other donors out there, and we can't be bought by them. But when I say I don't want to be beholden to a couple of millionaires, I want instead £1 from 1 million people, I really mean it. And as for the issue of credibility, credibility according to whom? Not according to the mainstream media. We cannot bow to this. We cannot bow to this snobbery. I want to be credible to the people out there who are ignored and have been ignored for years. Credibility is completely subjective. You want to be credible to a few group of millionaires who essentially share your same views and don't live out there on the estates and don't have their jobs taken. Then be credible with them. I want to be credible with the masses of people out there. That is how you get money into a party.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. I think there's time for a new question. This is a long one. This is a nasty one. In the past, we've had fairly catastrophic management failures. Fresh Choice for London, which resulted in UKIP not appearing on the mayoral ballot paper in 2012. The £500,000 black hole produced by the party election address in 2015. More recently, bungling delay in vetting candidates for this recent general election, all of which were known about in advance and could have been avoided. Many of those responsible are still around. What do you intend to put? Who do you intend to put in your management team, and who don't you? I'm going to be using wild cards.
Look at the hand
May I? Right, the question has come in now. Anne-Marie, go ahead.
Fine, me. I want in a top team something very important as an economist, and I have a really strong economist in mind, Catherine Blakelock. I also have, of course, Stuart Agnew, MEP, in mind for deputy. Other people, I'm sure, will come along, but what I really want is someone with experience, particularly of the issues that Stuart is experienced in. And I want an economist, and that's who I will have as a leading point, right up there at the top. As for who I won't have, well, I don't see how I could possibly work with anyone who's ever called me a neo-fascist without knowing what a neo-fascist is.
Thank you, Anne-Marie.
Very quickly, there are a huge amount of people involved within this contest alone who have specific talent and merit in certain areas. And the truth is, I am not big enough and ugly enough to run with this on my own. So any team that I have is actually going to be that. It's going to be a team. And all I would say on the matter, I won't name names, but I will work with anybody who puts UKIP at the heart of what they're wanting to do and wanting to work for. Anybody that believes in the party and anybody who wants to move us forward, I will work with. End of.
Jane, I think you're next.
Ben sort of beat me to it really, but I totally agree with Ben. There is talent sat on this table here tonight, and it's a combination of experience and also of new vision as well. And total agreement with you. We've got to now look at keeping UKIP going. It can't be about personal agendas. It can't be about one person's religion or another person's hate of a religion. It has to be about people. We are the People's Party. We have always been, and we've got to push our political agenda forward, not an individual's political agenda. So for me, we've got an experience and we've got vision, and I would include them all in a management team, but it will be a new management team and a new reformed NEC. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Peter Riddle?
Yes, first of all, I would say that I would have a much reduced team. We do not need 22, 23 spokespeople. I haven't even met some of them myself, and I'm sure that you haven't seen any of them in the media. I think it's a sort of hangover from the way that the other parties used to do it. So I would have a team of probably less than 10 of really talented, good people. I would also have a dedicated national campaign director, right? The chairman, whoever the chairman is, right, basically does too much at the moment. So I would have someone who is dedicated campaign director. On the point of fundraising, I fundamentally disagree about the idea of having a professional fundraiser. It does not work. Ask anybody who's in business. They always want to see the central man or woman who's going to be fronting it. They're the ones who go out. Nigel was the one who went out and got all the funding that we've ever got. Right? That is what it is. It's an unnecessary expense, and it just creates bureaucracy.
Thank you, Peter. David Coburn.
Well, as one of the people who went out with Nigel collecting that money around the city, and it wasn't easy, I have a fair idea about that. There are several people at this table, we'll not quite mention them yet, who want to work together. They are very talented. There are people who are willing to put their own personal ambition behind themselves and put the party's ambition first. And I have a good team of people already ready to go, and there are people that are tried and tested and people who are new blood. I will not, and I repeat not, and I challenge Peter, if he's going to keep the same chairman and his cronies, we're going to have the same people again. I will not be having the same people again. There will be a big broom and a big change.
Peter, very briefly. No, you're not going to use one of your tokens.
No, what I was saying, gentlemen, is if you start voting or not voting on who we up here say we're going to fire or not, then frankly, I think it's a really pretty pass that we've come to, right? I think that the fact is if you are motivated purely by your favouritism of one candidate, what they're going to do in terms of staffing or another, it's really not the point of being a leader. It really is not the point. We are here to actually choose a leader with vision for this party. So that kind of challenge, David, gets us absolutely nowhere.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Peter. Henry Bolton.
The team needs to be a great deal bigger than what I would call a shadow cabinet. The spokesmen need to be supported by subject matter experts. I've called that the Spokesman's Advisory Group, for want of another word, another name at the moment. Those people need to be drawn in a transparent recruitment process from volunteers who have particular contributions to make, technical knowledge. So, for example, in defence, you could have somebody from procurement, somebody from the Army, somebody from the Navy, somebody from the Air Force, who can specialise in providing real subject matter input into those spokesmen's role. Now, they, in turn, will be informed by members. Anybody could propose policy to the spokesman and that group, which, if you look at the website, because I'm going to run out of time again, it's clearly described on there, and you'll see it coming out again in more detail shortly. But there will be a structure. You are the party is you are part of the team. So you need to be involved in all of that as well.
Thank you for that, Henry. David Jones.
Thank you very much. There's two sides to this. There's the policy side, and the leader is there to set the tone in the policy. And we need to keep some of the spokesmen, I would have some continuity, but I would have some change. Julia Reid, for example, I would keep as health spokesman. She does a very good job. Other people I might change. But then there's also the internal workings of the party. And I think the question was more directed to that. What's going to happen to the chairman? What's going to happen to the internal staff? Well, I'm open-minded. I'm interviewing people for the chairman's job at the moment, but it's got to be someone with excellent communication and administration skills. And we haven't made enough of the deputy chairman's roles at the moment. There are 2 deputy chairmen, but we have 3 pairs of hands if they actually do something and support the chairman. We also need to get in place a proper structure. We need a head of policy, a head of candidates, and the head of candidates must put in place candidates in every single seat in England, Scotland and Wales now, ready to go for another election, so that we never ever face the situation we had a couple of years ago where we were caught sleeping. So that's the number 1 priority.